to the New Jersey Devils season preview show. I'm Erica Wachter, thrilled to be joining the MSG team and you, the fans, for what should be an exciting season of Devils hockey. The boys are back in Jersey and have been putting in the work this preseason, but as they gear up for the 2018 campaign, no longer are they a team that will surprise around the league. Last year, of course, the New Jersey Devils reaching the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in 6 seasons. And while they may have exceeded outside expectations, if you ask anyone inside the locker room, they knew they had a special group.
There's always great anticipation for Game 1 of 82. Hall, cross-ice pass, quick shot, they score! Jesper Bratt with the first of his National Hockey League career. Boyle shoots and a save by Talbot, the rebound, they score! Boyle, first as a Devil! A special night for the entire organization. Brian Boyle and his fight against cancer. The kid right now, unstoppable. Walking in, Nico, and he scores! He's done it again! Goals in 4 straight games for Nico Hischier.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you for letting me Devil forever.
This is a push to the playoffs, and the push is being driven by Keith Kincaid. In on Kincaid, backhand save by Kincaid! Has Nash with him, plays it across, oh, what a save by Kincaid! The unstoppable force that wears number 9. Here's Taylor Hall, gets by one Capital, continues on, Hall in, scores! Game-winning goal for the red-hot Taylor Hall! Win, and they're in. Zajac on the draw, scramble for the puck, sent down to the zone by Nason. The final seconds will tick away. The Devils are back in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Paul looks for space. He's checked by Cirelli, but continues on. Shot by Palmieri and a save by Vasilevsky. Rebound loose, shot by Hall, scores! Hall across, fire, score! Oh, what a shot! Stephen Nason! The Devils with the playoff win.
The Devils finished 44-29-9, grabbing 97 points, their most since their 2011-2012 season. That, of course, the last time they reached the playoffs. And we know Taylor Hall, he had a season to remember, but the rookies really made a difference as well. Nico Hischier, Will Butcher, Jesper Bratt, and Blake Coleman combining for 51 goals and 105 assists. But as exciting as last season was, head coach John Hynes says what you did in 2017 is not reflective of 2018. He has told his team they need to essentially start over and reinvest in a new year.
He obviously always has the right message to send, and you know, my message to the guys would be, you know, along the same lines as last year's over. It's we have to come here every day and prove ourselves again. Everyone's going to probably expect us not to have a good year again this year, and it's on us to make sure we hold ourselves accountable and make sure that we don't have a letdown this year. Make sure that we realize it's going to be, you know, even tougher this year to make the playoffs, and make sure we're ready to go right from day one.
What he said is, you know, spot on. You can't be, you know, you always hear the Stanley Cup hangover. Well, for a team that went from, you know, being completely last in the league to making playoffs, you can almost say the same thing, that, you know, you could have a little bit of a big head going into it, and thinking that it's going to be, you know, easier to do the same thing we did last year. Well, we're not catching teams by surprise now. You know, everybody knows that, you know, how fast we are in our transition game, and knows that we're very tenacious. And in order for us to continue doing that, we have to work harder and harder and harder.
I feel like our training camp last year set the tone for our season, and we worked so hard, and we need to do that again. Guys need to come expecting that effort, and I think that when we go through that again, we will. You remember how hard things are, how hard this game is, how hard this league is, and we need to build from there.
You just heard from the players on their mentality entering the season. Coming up next, Ken Danico sits down with head coach John Hynes to discuss the training camp competition. Welcome back to the New Jersey Devils season preview show. Over the past 3 seasons, general manager Ray Shero and head coach John Hynes have been working to establish a culture of effort and expectations. And now this year, some new faces will be joining Coach Hynes behind the bench. Rick Kowalski, who was inducted into the ECHL Hall of Fame in 2017, comes to the New Jersey Devils after spending 8 years as head coach of the AHL Devils in Albany Binghamton. And Mike Greer is joining Hynes' staff as an outside hire. Greer played more than 1,000 games over 14 seasons as an NHL forward, scoring 162 goals and 221 assists. And Coach Hynes feels strongly about both of these new guys and their ability to connect with the players on an individual level, which of course is huge, as he's going to want the best out of everyone so this team can continue their rebuild and make a deep run in the playoffs. For more on that now, we send it over to Ken Danico with Coach Hynes.
Thanks, Erica. And John, you're coming off a playoff season a year ago, and now you come into camp with 2 new coaches added to your staff. Tell us a little bit about Rick Kowalski and Mike Greer and what they can bring to the team this season.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have Rick and Mike. You know, when we lost Jeff and Ryan, we were trying to look for some similar fits, and have had the opportunity to coach against Rick when I was in the American Hockey League in Wilkes-Barre, and teams were always tough to play against, well-structured. Power plays are always really good, so I definitely gained some respect for him coaching against them, and then since coming to New Jersey, having the opportunity to work with him from New Jersey to Binghamton or Albany, wherever he was, I just think he's a real bright hockey mind. He's excellent with the power play. I think structurally and understanding tactics of the game are very good, and you know, one of the most important things for us to go along with those things is just, you know, the personality, the energy, his ability to teach and communicate with players is excellent. So very fortunate to have him and looking forward to continue to work with him. Mike was kind of filled the Ryan Clough role. I think when you have Elaine Nazardine, Rolly Melanson, and Rick, we all have quite a bit of coaching experience, so to have Mike come in, who played a long time in the league, played the game the right way, played the game the hard way, over 1,000 games, it's nice to have that perspective, and he's a guy that he'll be able to work with our young guys. He's got a great personality. He's a deep thinker when it comes to the game. He wasn't one of these guys that just played and didn't really think it. He's a hockey mind, so his perspective and his ability to work with the players, I think, will be fantastic.
It was a quiet offseason as far as free agent acquisitions, yet you have a lot of good young players in camp here, and does that give them a better opportunity? Was that kind of the thought process, or maybe you can tell us what you believe in?
Yeah, you know, we are always trying to find a way to make our team better, and unfortunately in free agency we had a couple things that didn't necessarily work out. But we also are very cautious of who we want to add to our team, what type of people they are, what type of player they are. We also feel like we do have some young guys coming, and it was important for us to come into camp, and we feel like giving some guys some opportunities and understand that there are a couple of spots available, and it's going to be based on merit and who's ready and who can play well. And we feel like because we've been able to draft types of players that we feel can really fit with us, it's an opportunity for us to give them an opportunity to see who can make the team and can make our team better.
To become a better team, you need guys within first-year players going into their second year, or guys that have been here a couple years, to take that next step, to be a better player and make your team better. Are there a couple of guys in particular that you can say you think will make your team better, regardless of no free agent signings or whatever, why you're going to be as good as last year because of these guys?
Correct. I think first and foremost, it's important that every guy on the team has to take a step. Mm-hmm. You know, even a guy like Travis Zajac or Andy Greene have been here a long time. Those guys have to continue to stay fit and get better and find a way to keep their edge and be effective players. But I think when you look throughout our team, when you look at a guy like Pavel Zacha, you know, Pav's coming into his 3rd year, you know, he's a guy we'd like to see take a step to a bit of a more offensive role. Some more special teams for him, use his size and his speed and really truly be a factor. And you know, when you can have strength down the middle, you have Nico and you have Travis, we're looking for Pav to take a step. I think when you look in the blue line, a guy like Damon Severson, you know, Damon's a young guy, and you know, with Johnny Moore leaving and with the talent level that Damon has, we need to see him take a step to be one of those top 4, top 3 defensemen that can play against the other team's top lines. He can distribute the puck. He can eat those hard minutes, and that allows you to maybe bring some other guys along at the same time.
The goaltending situation, obviously, Corey Schneider last year had an injury. Well, all of a sudden, the spotlight is thrust upon Keith Kincaid, and he did everything and then some. Does that give you more confidence coming into this year in Keith Kincaid and in the goaltending position with Corey maybe not being ready for the start of the year?
It certainly does. You know, Keith came in, and we've been together now going into our 4th year, and you know, he's always been pushing. He wants to play a little bit more. He's a very competitive kid. His work habits have really improved. His maturity level of being a teammate, his maturity level of being a pro and being prepared every day, and how he works at his game and getting himself prepared to be able to take a starter's role was important for him. And then going through it last year of having to play back-to-backs in multiple games and understanding the mental wear and tear and the physical wear and tear and being ready to be an everyday NHL starter, and particularly in a tight playoff race to be able to get in. So it's nice, I think, that he learned those things. I know he's had a really strong summer. He's excited to come back this year. There's certainly an opportunity for him to take the reins right off the bat.
You had a successful regular season, certainly last year, and a playoff experience. Not many people expected that from you, Coach. Going into this year, the bar is raised. What can we expect from this year's New Jersey Devils?
Well, for us, the bar is raised internally about what our process is, and we need to make sure that, you know, as we told all the players, all the coaches, our general manager, we all need to come back this year better, more prepared, focused to be able to take a step. But what are our benchmarks? We want to be a difficult team to play against. We want to be a stronger team defensively. We need to make sure that we have guys that are going to give us an opportunity to win every night, and we want to put ourselves in position to be able to compete at the end of the year. And that's our focus, though, starts with training camp and into our day-to-day. That our process has to be elite, and if that is an elite process of how we prepare, how we play day in and day out, that's going to give us a chance to maximize the group that we have, and that's what our challenge is this year.
Coach, appreciate your time. Good luck this season. Erica?
For the first time in New Jersey Devils history, the team will open up the season with the league MVP on their roster. Coming up next, we hear from Hart Trophy winner Taylor Hall. Not only did Taylor Hall exemplify playing with heart on the ice, the incredible season he put together earned him the Hart Trophy.
And the heart goes to Taylor Hall.
This is Taylor Hall's first Hart Trophy and his first selection as a finalist.
Taylor Hall was the first ever Hart Trophy winner in New Jersey Devils history, an honor he says he is extremely proud of. And when you look at the numbers he had, it's easy to see why he was so deserving. 93 points, 41 more than the next best Devil. Hall simply had his best career year ever. Points, goals, assists, plus minus, they were all career highs. But fans, I'm sure you want to know, can Taylor Hall continue to build upon this and take his game to an even higher level? Steve Cangelosi sits down with the Hart Trophy winner to not only look back on his historic season, but also talk about the year ahead.
Erica, thank you. It's a trophy that was won 9 times by Wayne Gretzky. Some of the greatest all-time players have been the recipient of the Hart Trophy, and now you, Taylor Hall, you're a member of that club. What's this all been like since that night in Las Vegas?
It's really cool when you put it like that. The history of the award, some of the amazing players, you know, past and present that have won it, the company that I was in just at the awards that night. You know, whether I won the award or not, I thought it was a culmination of a really successful season for myself and for our team. And for me to win, to have you know, my family there, and not only my family, but you know, the Devils brass, Ray and John, the support that they had for me that whole week was really cool, and kind of goes into the brotherhood, the family part of what we have going on here.
One of the most interesting takes that you gave us last season was that you said you had never experienced a level of coaching like the one that John Hynes produced for you and your teammates last season. How?
I think one of the things that he does very, very well is there's no gray areas with our system and how we have to play. It's very black and white. It's very, okay, this is what you have to do. This is not what we want. And I think that makes for an easier way to play. We have a lot of guys in our team. I think the personality of our team is hardworking, straight lines, north-south. So if guys know what they have to do, guys know their role, I think it makes it that much easier to play. So for myself, I know what he expects of me. I know how he wants me to play. I know where there's a certain area or two where I can maybe ad-lib or kind of do my own thing. But for the most part, everyone's got a role. Everyone knows what they need to do on the ice in a certain situation. I think that helps out a lot.
I remember a day in the locker room on the morning of a game in March. You were asked about Nico Hischier, and you said flat out, to be honest, I didn't expect to play with him this season. Best case scenario, 18-year-old kid, second or third liner, he feels his way into the NHL. That wasn't the case, though.
Yeah, no, he was a fresh 18-year-old. He had only played 1 year of major junior, and I thought that he was going to have, more of just a comfort process getting used to the league. But, I think it was game maybe 4 or 5 where we started playing together last year, and it was one of those things where through training camp we didn't play together, exhibition games we didn't play together, and then as soon as John put us on a line together, we figured it out pretty quickly. I thought the scoring chances came right away, and our ability to keep the puck out of our end was really good right off the bat, and from there we had a strong season. So that was one of the blessings of my season personally last year, was being able to play with Nico, and I thought having an 18-year-old come in and play like he did was a huge factor in why we were able to make the playoffs.
What did you learn from the series versus Tampa Bay?
I would say I learned just how much the top guys have to step up their game. I mean, I thought I played, okay in the playoffs, but you could see a guy like Kucherov. I think he had 10 points in 5 games against us. Every game he was an impact guy. Every game there were shifts where he took over and really created momentum for his team. So that was one of the things I noticed. And then obviously, I mean, the pace of the series was incredible. The physicality, just that extra 10%, that extra 15% that you can give on a shift, really matters. So I think it was a good learning experience for our whole team, and really shows I think we won the season series against Tampa last year, but they stepped it up another notch in the playoffs. They were able to have their guys, their top guys, really come in and get their game to another level, and I think we learned from that.
As a kid in Calgary, I know you watched a lot of Jerome Iginla as a young man growing up. 20 seasons in the National Hockey League. He officially retired over the summer without his name on the Stanley Cup. What does that tell us about seizing opportunity, even for the greatest who play the game?
Yeah, the Stanley Cup is so elusive for so many guys that have played, and just really goes to show you. I mean, I can't believe I'm in season 9 already, and I was just in the playoffs for the first time. So when you get that chance, when you're on a good team, when you're on a team that's on the rise, I think it really shows you that when you do have those opportunities, you got to make them. Worth your while, and that's my goal. That's always been my goal, is to be on a team that wins the Stanley Cup. In saying that, if you go into a season saying, okay, we want to win the Cup, I mean, it's got to be a gradual process. There has to be a lot of things that go into it, and for me, that's why I'm here.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right.
Coming up next, Bryce Salvador joins me to break down the storylines surrounding the team as we get you ready for a new season. Welcome back to the Devils season preview show. I'm Erica Wachter, joined now by Bryce Salvador. And Sal, let's get right to it. The Devils, they surprised a lot of people last year. They maybe had an earlier exit than they would have liked, but they reached the playoffs. So many of these guys now return to this roster. What are the expectations this season?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right, Erica. They had a phenomenal season last year. They made the playoffs the first time in 6 years. And so the expectation is that everyone wants more. But For myself, I just want them to show, one, that they can demonstrate that they're learning how to consistently win each year. You make the playoffs once, but can you do it again? And then to do that, you're going to have to start with the same message which Coach Hynes has been doing right from training camp. The brotherhood, right. You know, the team camaraderie. Let's make sure that we can get out there and have a great start to the first part of the season, put some points in the bank, weather the next 60 games, and then have a strong finish like they did. Because to make the playoffs, if you remember last year, they had to win 8 of the last 10 games just to get in the playoffs by 1 point. So I'm looking for a big season. I expect them to do exactly the same thing they did last year.
Right, and the guys last year, they know what it takes. And I mentioned so many of them are returning. It was a quiet off season. What is your take on that? It looks like they're going to be, Ray Shero is leaning a lot to the younger guys to elevate their game, depending on who has been here before.
Yeah, and I think that you've been hearing a lot of the fans, they wanted to see maybe a Tavares land here.
Yep.
And you know, what more to not want to have in a big signing. But the way Ray Shero has been handling things since he's been here is he likes to operate through trades. And he doesn't overreact, and he doesn't do anything without it being a calculated decision. So I expect him to do the same thing. You look at what he did, he brought Taylor Hall in on a trade. Sammy Vatanen was in on a trade. Marcus Johansson, a trade as well. And then Patrick Maroon at the trade deadline last year was so instrumental on the Devils' power play. So I expect Ray Shero to do something when the timing is right, and I think he wants to see what he has first internally.
Yeah, and he's proven that. Now we talk about internally as well. Some of those prospects that came up last year, those rookies, they were huge. Who do you look forward to, I guess, having a really big sophomore season? Who needs to step it up, take it to the next level, I guess, or is there a worry about a sophomore slump?
Well, I think we need everyone to step up.
Yeah.
Because they were all those guys, when you talk about, you know, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Blake Coleman, you know, Gibbons at the first part of the season, and Stefan Nason. Will Butcher. They were so important to the Devils having success last year that the Devils are going to rely on them next year again. And yes, everyone's worried about the sophomore drinks. I'm not, because these guys are the type, they have the type of character that's so resilient, and they fought for everything they got last year. So I don't expect them to display or show anything less than what they did last year. But what's more important now, I think, too, when you talk about these guys in the second year, is, you know, having Marcus Johansson start from the beginning of the season, you know, and then you have Travis Zajac. Is he going to be there? Kyle Palmieri. Some of these veteran guys, if they can now have a strong start as well, I think that will just bode well for the Devils.
What about when you look to this season, to the rookies that are fighting for a spot right now? They want to make this roster. And both Ray Shero and head coach John Hynes have said there are spots up for grabs.
Yeah. If you're a young kid and you want to play in the NHL, Erica, I don't know what team you wouldn't want to be trying out for. The New Jersey Devils keep coming out and say, you know what, we have 2, 3, 4 spots that are up for grabs. And so when you hear that, plus last year, their track record shows they're not afraid to bring a Blake Coleman, a Stefan Nason, a Gibbons into the lineup, right? Because, and when you see that, you know that there's just not smoke and mirrors here. When they say there's opportunities, you're a young kid, you better come here and give it the best, because you can find yourself starting here on a roster spot based on how you perform in training camp.
Now, he's not a young kid, but Keith Kincaid really seized his opportunity last year. He got in there when Corey Schneider went down, really made the most of it. And I think it gave the team a lot of optimism, having that 1-2 tandem. What is your take on the goalie situation as a whole right now, where the Devils are at?
This was a fabulous story from my perspective, because I really liked how Keith Kincaid demonstrated, starting from February, that I can take that #1 responsibility should it be thrown my way. And because of that, it's my opinion, that allowed the Devils and Corey Schneider to say, you know what, I've got 5 years left on my contract. I need to have this surgery. And now, based on what Keith has demonstrated, we know that he can start this season and buy me time to get healthy. Because this is, when you're messing around with a hip area on a goalie, you have to be so careful. You can't push him.
Absolutely.
And so if they didn't have Keith Kincaid and then Eddie Lack as well, maybe you push Corey Schneider to come back. So I really like that, where this is going in terms of the goalie situation, and I think when Corey comes back, he's going to be fine.
Some positive insight there. Sal, thank you so much.
Thank you, Erica.
Well, it should be an exciting year, that is for sure. And we hope you're feeling good about this team now that you've watched the season preview show. The Devils open up the season in Sweden October 6th against the Edmonton Oilers as part of the NHL's Global Series. Sal and I will be staying home in studio for that. But our coverage will begin at 12:30 p.m. with the Holy Name Medical Center pregame show. We hope to see you there. And then, of course, October 11th, I know you've got that marked down on your calendar. That is when the Devils return home to open up the season.